Alright, what do we have in the news this week? Steam ping-ponging with good and bad decisions, EA got stalled, Fortnite proving their laziness, all that and more on this week's Old Man Rages at the News for the 6th of October 2025. Before we get into the video, hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And we're kicking off this week with Hades 2 launching and reaching 112k players with overwhelmingly positive in reviews. Not bad as far as launches go, considering the game was in early access since the 6th of May this year, thus showing pretty good retention. And in what could be described as a moment of greatness, Steam is issuing refunds for Destiny 2 players with over 2,000 hours of game time after Bungie's game became unplayable in numerous regions. In one of the updates, Bungie blocked access to Destiny 2 in regions including Russia, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. Game Post said that one player with over 2,000 hours in Destiny 2 was able to get a refund on the Ultimate Edition, which costs $100. And just as if this was a game of Pong, Steam is under fire for significant price disparity for PC games, which cost regional pricings that often go 20 to 30% higher than the dollar equivalent. In Water C2's video, he used Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater as an example of the disparity. The game is priced at $69.99, and in Poland it's priced at $369.99 Polish zloty. A quick conversion confirms that is way above what it's supposed to be. And in case you're wondering, $69.99 is the equivalent of 253 Polish zloty and a bit over. According to him, Valve hasn't updated the conversion rate since 2022, which is why there's such a big price hike for original prices. And in what looks like more bad news for people who aren't upgrading to Windows 11, the Monster Hunter games are ending support for Windows 10 starting the 14th of October this year. You can still play the game on Windows 10, but future updates may make the game incompatible. This affects World, Rise, and Wilds, despite Microsoft offering extended support for Windows 10. And in other news, looks like Borderlands 4 is back on the menu, but this time it's not because Pitchford took to Twitter, it was simply Borderlands' Twitter account. This is old, but I really wanted to see if they had the balls to stick out with the tweet or delete it. Well, they didn't. In last week's video I mentioned how they did a performance patch for the game, however, on their Twitter they wrote this. Stuttering issues should resolve over time as the shaders continue to compile in the background while playing. If you're still experiencing issues after 15 minutes of continuous play, you can also clear your shader cache via your video card manufacturer's approved method. I mean, it's fine to recommend clearing the cache file, but holy shit, imagine the audacity you have to have in order to tell people to wait 15 minutes to play your game? I mean, this isn't 2008 where tech would take, what, 2 to 3 minutes to get fired up? It's 2025 for fuck's sake. We have tech that surpasses what NASA used to send people to the moon. But nope, Borderlands is somehow more demanding and it requires you to sit for 15 minutes doing jack all. I mean, I'm pretty sure I can do the same calculations that NASA did in those 15 minutes. And I don't know, make a trajectory that would send somebody to the moon in 15 minutes with the current technology? Well, why am I surprised at this point? We have the technology to make this shit happen, but not the expertise it seems. And in a quick lesson on how to tank your reputation on home ground, Yoshiki Okatomo got backlash in Japan for saying that Palworld has crossed the line that should not be crossed. For some context, he is the current chairman of the Japan Game Culture Foundation, and he worked in the game industry for 40 years on games like Street Fighter 2, Resident Evil, and the mobile game Monster Strike. Would have been on that last game, it's gonna be important. In a YouTube video posted on his channel on the 27th of September, Okamoto gave his opinion on the Nintendo vs. Pocket Pair lawsuit and said that Palworld has, quote, crossed a line that should not be crossed, and I don't want the world to become a place where this kind of thing is acceptable. Yeah, what line was that, mate? Care to elaborate? Because he also went and added, if a settlement is reached with Nintendo, then I think it will become a game that is officially fine to play. However, it is currently a game that's being sued, so it's unacceptable. By playing the game, you're supporting it, so please don't buy it. Oh, brother. What line did Pocket Bear cross, mate? Care to elaborate? Was it the line that they took what Pokemon games could have been and put it on PC? Did it better than the original? I have a theory on that one. But before I get into all of that, this guy also mentioned that he has no interest in spending money on the game or even playing it in the first place, and basically confirmed that he's in the anti-Palworld camp. Now, my theory is, and this kind of ties into the Monster Strike game that he worked on, is that either he had a back-end deal with Nintendo and the Pokemon company, considering Monster Strike is inspired by Pokemon and another Capcom game, and basically he wants to offer Nintendo monopoly in the industry, which is never good, or he's just brain dead and doesn't recognize what damage this could cause on a creative level. But anyway, the way I see things is, if this guy generally has no stake in either the Pokemon company or in Nintendo, he's banging on Nintendo not touching his games that he worked on. Otherwise, he would have been singing a different tune. And in more news that has the industry shitting bricks, EA is officially sold. This has been a long time coming for EA, and with how big their greed is. They are being acquired by PIF, Silver Lake, and Affinity Partners for $55 billion. Under the terms of the agreement, the consortium will acquire 100% of EA, with PIF rolling over its existing 9.9% stake in the company. Therefore, the company goes private. EA stockholders will receive $210 per share in cash. And who knows, maybe now we'll get a Dragon Age game that isn't Failguard. And for the people that are crashing out about this, like the former BioWare lead writer that quote-unquote reads the runes on the EA Saudi deal and speculates that guns and football are in, gay stuff is out, and the venerable RPG studio may be found on the chopping block. I mean, I don't know where he found those runes, but last time I saw runes when I was playing a game was Wrath of the Lich King, when I had to rune forge weapons for the Death Knight starting quest chain. And let me put it like that, those were really shitty pixelized runes. Also, who could have seen this coming? It's all from Blue Sky, obviously. And he wrote, buyers, so your games, guns and football, yes? EA. Mostly guns and football, yep. Buyers. No gay stuff. No politics we're not going to like? EA. Haha, definitely not. Hey, could you give me a second? I just need to shut down the studio real quick. Alright, I mean, I get the Saudis are against gay stuff, but if that didn't work for games, then there's only one logical solution. The biggest scare for me right now, personally, is the fact that they might just follow Ubisoft's solution, and I'm using that term loosely, and monetize the living fuck out of EA single-player games just to milk the audience even more, but only time will tell, considering they had to take on a $20 billion debt to buy the company. EA is gonna have to work overtime to pay that. The CEO, Andrew Wilson, made a statement to employees on EA's future. The biggest thing that I want to highlight is this. Our values and our commitment to players and fans around the world remains unchanged. I'm excited to continue as CEO, working alongside our leadership team to advance our strategy. United by our vision, we will definitely experience that transcends platforms and empower players everywhere to create worlds, characters, and stories that are bold, interactive, and deeply connected. The reason why I wanted to highlight this is because they are saying nothing to the new employees. And a reminder, this comes from the same guy who said that the game would have been better off as a live service. And to top it all off, Mark Dara is back on the news, and this time he also talked about the EA deal, and he believes there will be apocalyptic backlash if EA's new owners censor BioWare's progressive messaging. About that, he said in his video, and I quote, "If this is a PR move for the Saudi government as much as it is a financial one, the studios that don't have much of a track record, what you might do is just come in and put your thumb on the scale and push their messaging in the directions you want. Or at the very least, steer them away from messaging that makes you look bad." But for the studios that have more of a track record, essentially a track record that maybe doesn't line up with your political views, again, BioWare, you're going to look at that studio and wonder how you make them fit into your new structure. He further added, "It's hard to imagine that you have BioWare pivot from having very progressive messaging to having the reverse because it's what the government wants. It's hard to imagine that the public perception of a game that comes out of BioWare, even if you do that, isn't apocalyptically bad." I mean, I can see where he comes from with the apocalyptically bad, but the thing is, this is a minority part of the gaming audience. It won't make a difference if BioWare suddenly makes a game that gamers actually want. I mean, think Knights of the Old Republic, for crying out loud. That was BioWare. The people that Veilguard tried to appeal to never came around to buying the game in the first place, and all you have to do is just look at the sales data. Not to mention the LGBT stuff was also in Inquisition and Origins, and no one really made a fuss over them. I don't know, maybe because they were done in a way that didn't force them down a player's throat. Not to mention it was better written than Veilguard. That also helps. And in what looks like an admission of laziness, Fortnite is on the menu. Now, what caused them to be on the menu? Well, they disabled Peacemaker's dance emote from their game. To be fair, them removing the dance emote made me look up the series, and oh boy, did they not bother to check what's going on in the show. I mean, it doesn't take more than, 40 minutes to figure out that this show is not something you want to put in your game, especially since Fortnite's played primarily by children. Anyways, here's what they said. "We're disabling the peaceful hips emote in Fortnite as we inquire into our partner's creative intentions in this collab emote. Assuming it's not coming back, we'll issue refunds in the next few days. Sorry folks." Yeah, sorry folks, you were lazy and decided not to look into it. On a side note, the show has killer soundtrack. James Gunn hit the nail on the head with that, at least. Moving on to what could be described as a catch-22. Helldivers 2's massive PC file size won't drastically decrease until Arrowhead knows, and I quote, "Most of our PC players are using SSD drives." Alright, for some context here. Helldivers 2 takes 150 gigabytes of its own PC, while it takes 40 gigabytes on console. And in a statement made on Steam, the studio's deputy technical director explained that the game is built with asset duplication in mind to support gamers running the game off a hard disk drive. Now, it said hard disk drive, not an SSD. Put a pin in that. As a result, no major changes can be made until Arrowhead is certain, and I quote, "Most of our PC players are using SSD drives." They did also mention, and I quote, "We're exploring taking some of the worst offenders in terms of duplication and deduplicating them by putting them in, quote, very common assets. The bundles, which will always be loaded under set conditions, i.e. specific faction, flash biome. This does mean that loading times will get a bit worse for players using mechanical hard drives. It's unfortunate, but unavoidable. So there might be an update to the file size in the future." Oh boy. Talk about Catch-22. People don't want to put large storage on an SSD. I mean, especially if they're gonna be reading off of it, since, I mean, it's 150 gigs for fuck's sake. You can, I don't know, put 2 games there instead of 1 maybe. I think they might need to consider the recent reviews, considering all of them are mixed as of writing. It's almost as if they're using the excuse of not running an SSD to not bother optimizing the file size. Not to mention, if you're running a hard drive for games, you're already expecting long load times anyway, compared to an SSD, so you know what to expect at that point. And in what could be considered the biggest roast so far, the new Battlefield 6 trailer takes pot shots at Black Ops 7. I mean, just look at it.
The world is a vampire. Sent to drain.
Showtime.
Secret destroyer. Hold you up to the flames. Sound check. Why do I get
Okay, boys, we're here to do one thing.
my pain?
One thing.
Who was that? Doesn't matter. Let's move.
Yeah. The comments were brutal as well. You know, I picked some of the best ones here. I mean, look at him. Who was that? Doesn't matter. Ain't that the truth? Or, who was that? That franchise. Let's move on. I love how an A-list actor, a basketball player, a country singer, and a UFC fighter all just agreed to get blown up in a commercial. First reaction: oh no, you didn't. 30 seconds later: tears of joy, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. First 20 seconds had me thinking, what cringe are they about to present to us? Never have I been so happy to be wrong. And they had us in the first half, not gonna lie. And most of the gamers there are, well, on the money, considering how Battlefield 6 competitor is doing right now. Spoiler alert, not so hot. First you have articles that say it has cheaters, and then you have the senior director saying he is worried about series fatigue. Now, to be fair, Battlefield 6 also had cheaters in one of the beta tests, so it's not something unique to Black Ops 7. The first clip that Destructo found was disabled because Activision can't take the L. However, the second one is still up, and it contains over a minute worth of clips of people using aimbots. Or who knows, maybe it was aim assist with console players. And the senior director of productions, Yale Miller, mentioned, and I quote, I think the honest answer is yes, I worry about that, in response to series fatigue. He also added, obviously there was a plan with the 2 Modern Warfare games, and then this. We'll see what the franchise does in the future. We're excited about the opportunities it gave us, but we'd all be dead lying if we said we weren't worried about that. Nice job, Chief. Just preemptively blame the company that released 2 similar themed games. That's just Ubisoft level of deflecting right there. And speaking of Ubisoft, their new Tencent-backed company called Vantage Studios will take over development of Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Rainbow Six. Wow, who could have seen that coming? The new studio is made of, quote, thousands of experienced developers from Ubisoft Studios. That's a big red flag in my eyes, and it's supposed to represent a first step in Ubisoft's ongoing transformation. They also mentioned it will be the first of multiple creative houses with the goal to, and I quote, facilitate stronger and deeper connections between developers and players. I don't know what they're thinking with that one when they said that, because it shouldn't take a new studio in order to look at social media for like, what, 10-15 minutes to see the disaster their previous games were? Or is that just me? This is supposed to be a streamlined approach to allow higher level of autonomy for developers, but to me this seems like a bunch of marketing bullshit and honeyed words in order to appear better than they actually are. Hell, even PC Gamer is reminding people that the company isn't doing good. Maybe Ubisoft should realize that sex appeal is an art form like how the first Descendant did. Did that draw in people? Yes. Did Nexon drop the ball after that? Very much yes. So, Ubisoft, here's some free advice. Make characters hot, and don't make the game bland like the first Descendant. Moving on to what could be described as the stupidest move ever, starting the 1st of October, users will no longer be able to directly redeem points for Xbox Game Pass subscriptions. That's not the only thing though, considering Microsoft increased the price on the Ultimate Game Pass. The core and standard prices will remain the same, however, the Ultimate Game Pass was increased from $19.99 to $29.99. Obviously, people were not happy with comments like, now it's cheaper to buy the games of theirs you want. 50% increase is wild. Right? Play day one release, it's now $30 a month. After 2 months, that's nearly enough to own the game outright. It genuinely feels like Microsoft are just suicidal, trying to kill the Xbox brand as fast as possible so they can just be rid of it. Not to mention, if you wait 2-3 months, the games usually go on sale and you can buy it much cheaper. As an adult with a life that does occasionally game, no way is this shit worth it. It's way cheaper if you're down to just wait a bit. Patient gaming is the only way we can combat this stuff. Some people flat out said, I'm not paying that much. And there is the guy that did the math. This is going to price so many people out, and really ironic after they literally just talked about it being profitable. It's just not worth it for casual gamers, especially since you can get quite a few games each month for $30 in the sales. $360 a year is nuts for a subscription service. There are so many people that want to cancel their subscription that the website got overloaded. Surprise, surprise. That's just how many people don't want to deal with the price hikes, cause now it's just better to buy the game itself instead of using Game Pass. At least they're replacing the discount on Call of Duty add-ons with a 20% discount on selected games from the Game Pass library, only for Ultimate members. Did that fix anything? That would be a no. Their YouTube video also got ratioed to hell, talking about the prices and the changes with it. They even made a short about the changes and it has more comments than likes. Think of that what you will. The return dislike button add-on doesn't seem to be working for shorts, but I still find it amusing that it has more comments than likes, considering it's normally the other way around for big channels. And to end this week with some karma, there's a new game that Sweet Baby Inc. had their grubby hands on, and people are boycotting it. And oh boy, it's working! The game in question is Henry Halfhead, and it only has a peak of 44 players since its release last month. The Sweet Baby Inc. Kiss of Death works wonders, I'd say. This was revealed on the 17th of September by the Master of the TDS, which is when the drop in player base happened. But that isn't the only game that Sweet Baby Inc. touched in recent releases. Winterborough is another one of those games. The DEI Detached group showed that Amy Lee Shaw promoted the game, and FYI, she's a narrative designer and writer at Sweet Baby Inc. That's not the only person that worked on the game. Cameron Wilds also worked on the game, as you can see in the statement here. Now, obviously, the game isn't out yet, but the demo received an all-time peak of 88 players. To top it all off, the game developers also made a code of conduct on the Steam discussions. They're going on about having a respectful tone and trying to foster dialogue, and then they just banned both Master of the TES and J Viper. Mind you, both of them got no explanation for the ban. It's just left as a blank square. Can you believe it? The developers got so butthurt by people that they decided to lock the discussions to only people who have the game. You literally can't post anything unless you own the game. Well, so much about fostering dialogue when you're silencing anyone who doesn't agree with you. Now, this isn't the only thing that happened that has connections to Sweet Baby Inc. Avalanche Studios closes an office and lays off staff after the cancellation of Contraband. Yes, that happened. They did an interview and, quote, in light of current changes, resulted in the conclusion that the Liverpool studio had to be closed down. Maybe next time just don't work with Sweet Baby Inc. You can see the full statement on the screen, you can pause if you want to read it. I ultimately just hope that the Sweet Baby Inc. connection doesn't affect games like Just Cause. I mean, sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and do stupid shit in games, hence why Just Cause, Saints Row exist. But anyway, I'm to finish things off with the gamer and their delusional beliefs that Insomniac clapped back at everyone who called Mystique woke. Yes, the ass licker of a publication called The Gamer believes that this tweet here is clapping back at people. I mean, ultimately, this defective journalist also called Asmongold a controversial kick streamer. Yeah, about that. Talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of strawman arguments, considering Kick isn't even his primary platform. But anyways, sadly, the only other decent game that Wolverine has is no longer available on the digital storefronts due to licensing agreements expiring. And I tell ya, X-Men Origins Wolverine was a good game. Sadly, it can't be bought online anymore. But that's all for this week. Again, if you like the content, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.